As we get ourselves ready for Budget Day 2023, it's important to bring some of the trailblazers, folks who, from their particular vantage point, understand the bigger picture. They look at all what's happening within the world of business and all the happenings overseas, of course, and the way it could impact us here at home from that holistic point of view. And we welcome the CEO of AMCHAM T&T, Nirad Tawari. Great to see you as always, Nirad, and by all means, I look forward to your perspective concerning Budget Day 2023. Welcome.
Pleasure to be here this morning, as always. Good morning to you and good morning to all the viewers.
You know, we find ourselves in an interesting time, not only here in the region, but on the global stage. We see inflation happening even in the US and prices sky high, supply chain issues, lots going on. But when we consider Trinidad and Tobago and the fact that the budget is around the corner, from your standpoint, through your lens, where should emphasis be placed this time around? We have put lots of emphasis over the years on national security and other parts where we are not seeing the particular result. To generate business, to get people back up and going and to keep the wheels turning, where you feel we need to really put extra emphasis with this budget just mere days away?
So, I mean, the focus has to be on delivery and efficiency gains, because we do spend a lot of money on the various ministries or within the various ministries that are important: national security, education, and health. And now we have to look at outcomes and tie that back to the outcomes that we want. We do think that the digital transformation of the economy and of government services will play a huge role in that. So, for example, we talk about a national digital identification number. If that is linked to social services delivery and outcomes, so that within the government system, you have the data being collected and analyzed via algorithms to make sure that when you get your social services check or you get a grant, your kids are in school, they are getting their health checkups and the like, you have overall better outcomes. So sometimes so the government spoke a lot about stabilization, which is true. The economy was in a situation where it required efforts to stabilize revenue, and we've gotten lucky in a sense because of the higher commodity and gas prices. But that's external to us. That is not as a result of policy per se, because gas production is still low, and we're looking forward to the outcome of the discussions that the Honorable Prime Minister would have had with the upstream energy companies, hopefully boosting production in the medium term. But now that we have that fiscal space, as we say, we have more money coming in, as the government has more money coming in, it has to use that strategically and link it to the outcomes that it wants. So the digital transformation, improvement of trade across the borders, so improvement of the customs processes. And I must say, we've seen some progress. It's been slow, but we've seen some progress, and we're actively working with the leadership at Customs and the Ministry of Finance. We hope that within the next month or two, we'd get some finalization of standard operating procedures so that importers and exporters would have clearer, more predictable rules when bringing things in or sending things out. We would like to see the digitization of that process through the addition of ASICUDA models. So we have this software that the government has had for decades, really, and we're not using it to its full potential, but that will help. So if we remove some of the paper-based systems, we will have greater efficiency. And as we start doing that, and we will see that service delivery and efficiency will improve, and there will be a direct impact on the ease of doing business and the ease with which citizens interact with the state, which will create new economic activities, which will have an impact on jobs and hopefully create some economic resilience so that the pressure that people feel today as a result of years of recession and now imported inflation essentially, hopefully will start to ease and we'd see some greater economic activity and dynamism.
I mean, obviously, that is futuristic thinking, and that is clearly a way forward. I'm watching, I mean, and everything you would have mentioned there is quite doable. It can be done, but we find ourselves in an interesting place where there is public sector, you know, a lot of disgruntled public sector workers. Obviously, you know, you're seeing the union negotiations going on. So one really wonders if indeed that vision, which, as far as I'm concerned, is very doable, can actually be implemented based on the current climate. And if indeed some of this budget allocation should be towards workers to make sure that they're comfortable in their space so that they can perform optimum.
Yeah. So obviously we need to consider, and the government is in an unenviable position in this regard. We need to consider people being able to work to live, not live to work, right? And that is a very real consideration. The approach to addressing that, however, cannot only be in wages, because if that is the case, then what you would have is potentially a spiraling of inflation, and wages will be unlikely to keep up with the cost of living. And that is why we're saying that while we must address the issue of putting money in people's pockets through wages, if you look, there are other ways to put money in people's pockets directly and indirectly. So if your cost of living were to fall in other ways through efficiency gains, if it is easier and you have to spend less to get around inefficiencies in the system, then you are probably better able to manage on what you have. So it has to be a multi-dimensional policy approach to what we're doing. And public servants, there are many, many, many public servants with whom I've worked over the years who work very hard, very long, and try to deal with the inefficiencies through their own hard work. So what we need is to look at the systems within which the public service operates, and digitization could help. It could even help with remote work for public servants, which will have an economic and living quality impact, a positive living quality impact as well, if we improve the management systems and the technology and the processes by which public servants work, just as we do in the private sector, we try to do in the private sector. And when we approach it that way, and we understand, and the public servants understand that they have to interact with the state as citizens as well, then hopefully we'd have a shared vision and we find a balance and a way to find a happy medium. And remember, as the economy grows and becomes more resilient, then you can address wages and benefits in a different way going forward. But if the economy continues to be under pressure and depressed, it is not reasonable and rational and quite frankly possible to be able to add significantly to the wage bill. And so there may be a consideration of how the government is probably thinking about how does it keep the most people employed within the public sector at the moment, while managing the wage bill. Because the other unfortunate calculation that might have to be made is, if we raise wages significantly, can we keep as many people employed? And so it's a balancing act, I'm sure.
Let me ask you, we have heard the word diversification being touted for many years. Since I was in khaki pants and socks going to school, I'm hearing, you know, diversification as part of the mandate. Do you think it's time to inject more money into, let's say, agriculture, into ecotourism, into sports tourism, just general tourism, into agriculture. Is this the time to pivot for all of us here in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, it's always a good time to improve your resilience. And we have been talking a lot about diversification. Many countries do. And it's easy to get sidetracked when you have income coming in from somewhere else. You get distracted and you use that income. But we believe the technology sector offers low-hanging fruit. I've been a long advocate for product development in tourism, and I don't believe that marketing without product development is going to yield any results. And what I mean by that is you have to develop the sites. You have to ensure that when tourists come, they have the services, they have the quality of sites that you need, and then they will come. So when they go to the bird sanctuary, when they go to the Pitch Lake, when they go to Charlottesville, when they, what Gabriel is doing with the Tobago Heritage Conservation Society in discovering all these old archaeological sites and trying to bring them back, those kinds of things can have a huge positive impact. There's also, I mean, to the credit of the private sector and the government, there's a lot happening in the agri-processing sector. And we've seen some of it at the recent Agri-Expo. And so if we can build on that, and again, if we can remove the inefficiencies in the system, if we can make it easier for businesses to do what businesses do, that is to grow their businesses, to sell their products locally and abroad, you're going to see the growth of more businesses like that. So yes, I mean, those two sectors, but also technology, we believe that we can very quickly develop some viable contributing sectors, as in grow those sectors' contribution to the economy. And remember, when you grow the economic contribution of additional sectors while you have your mainstay sector, you grow your GDP, there's more that you can do in terms of fiscal space. Your debt to GDP ratio falls, and therefore your cost of borrowing falls, which would lower your cost of repayment. It's like if you take a loan and you get it for 4% instead of 8%, it makes a big, big difference. And then you can use that money for more productive things as well.
Indeed. You know, I want to thank you for the counsel this morning. You know, great advice. I hope that the powers that be will take heed to some of what was said here this morning. I'm sure you would have said it here via this platform and in other scenarios, Mr. Tuari. And I can safely say, as we look to go to the break, that whole push towards technology, you said low-hanging fruit, it's so true, and it can actually give young people who are very technologically savvy. That's right up their alley. People like my son, people like the youngsters who look towards the tech. We can now keep this talent pool as opposed to having them go to Canada, to the US, to England, and other parts of the world to pursue it. So thanks again. Let's see how things pan out. And probably after the budget, we could do a postmortem and see if any of the recommendations are spot on. Have a great one. Good to see you as always.
Thank you, JW. Have a good day.
Nira Tuari there from AMCHAM. You know, technology, that's right up the lane with young people. And it's far time that we, well, at least, you know, the minister was here. I remember he was here, and there are policies in place to grow that space. So let's see how things go. We take a pause. We come back, social media details, and your birthday brew before we head up to the 7 o'clock news update on this Tuesday the 20th of September, 2022. Hey, get your Guardian. Today's Health Plus tour, Dr. Mohammed, coming up after 7. Stick around.